I always say, tell Jesus that you love him and make a friend today. Sounds like pretty good advice to me. Been saying that for the last many years on the live cast, even when I was doing my comedy, when I was playing my gigs. I always would say before or after a song or at the end of anything that I ever did, if I ever got an audience, anyone was listening to my words, and I had the mic, I always said, and I still say, tell Jesus that you love him, do that, and make a friend today. And that's just plain old good advice, okay? This is the Ministry Road live cast. I am Pastor Charles Miller. I pastor whoever wants to be a member of Ministry Road. We do have a church, a physical church that we meet as church over at the Elks Lodge in Gretna, Louisiana, the first and third Sunday of every month at 10 a.m. But I come to you pretty much every morning at 9 a.m. USA Central Time. In America, we have, remember the author wrote a book called, it was Dale Carnegie that wrote this book. Dale Carnegie. You may have read his book. And his book was How to Truly Win Friends and Influence Enemies. How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies. It was a book that told you how to tell people what they want to hear, to be quite honest with you. It was tell people what they want to hear, and you will sell them something. How you like that? You ever sell anything to somebody, said, hey, listen, I know you're here to buy an automobile. Even though you're ugly, ugly people deserve to ride to have automobiles as well. See how that goes over, huh? Oh. You look at someone and you're going to say, oh, you look lovely today. Thank you for coming into our dealership. How can I help you? How much of that was true? How much of that was true? How much of that did you really want to help yourself with the sale? How much of that's, oh, you all, thank you for coming in, you look lovely. How much of that was true? Somebody said that we lie. Think about this, huh? And I see my friend Marks is on as well. I'm talking about good character. Mark's another one that's good character. That's why he's my friend for so long. See that, Marks? You made part of the sermon this morning. Yes. Anyway, as I go on. Somebody said that before we get through the first few hours of the day, that we have said something that was not totally true. Yeah. Before you even get through the first hour or two of the day, you either told someone they looked nice and you didn't really think so. Oh, Lord forbid that you told an outright lie, okay? But, you know, when someone tells me, hey, what? Have a nice day. That usually means don't have a nice day. I don't like you. Yeah. Now if somebody says, hey man, how you doing? Hey guy, what? Hey, you have a nice day, okay? Same thing was said. But I can tell by the character of the person if they really mean it. I don't weigh words. I don't listen to the words. I pick up on the character. That's a profound word there. I pick up on the character. You can go around telling everyone how much you love them, and nobody ever sees you outside the house how you truly are. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. Who puts on the true who they are to the rest of the world? Nobody. Nobody. And you know the joke. Everybody, and I'm talking about good character, and I'm going to read out of the book of Ruth in just a minute. I'm going to throw some Bible in here. Don't worry. Don't get nervous on me. I've got a reason why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. The old joke that the girl, she has false eyelashes and they look pretty. She's got makeup on and she looks just perfect. No wrinkles. Nice dress on, looks beautiful. And forgive me for going this far with it, okay? But even got some changes to make them look a little bit more profound, okay? That's all I'll say. Everything is kind of fake. Got some Botox here and, dyed the hair and whatever, okay? Nice fingernail polish. And just looking beautiful. And then, so well, where you going? See, well, I'm trying to go out in this world and I'm trying to attract somebody, and but I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. I want a real man, okay? If you want me, you better be a real man. It's just kind of a joke. With who is real, huh? Who is real? Bible does say that we deceive ourselves. All right, let me say something that's wise for a moment, if I can find something here. The Bible says don't judge people according to how much money they have. Don't look at people according to how flashy they are, because that's going to fool you. Took a little bit of a survey, and before I prepared this lesson this morning, the poor people in America, if you make $14,891, if you don't make any more than that, you're considered somewhat poor. I'm just reading statistics. If you have a family of 4 and you make less than $29,960, you are considered a percentage of America that is of the poverty level. Bible says don't judge somebody's character by how much money they make, how much money they don't make. In a court of law, don't judge people that way. So let's do this. Where does all this fit in? Well, let me help you. I want you to turn to the book of Ruth, chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. And I am going to read a little bit here, okay? I'm going to read down to verse 13. Let's talk about someone that I think was a very, very good character. 2 old people. They're 90 years, in their 90s. They're 90 years old, 80 years old, 80 years old. 2 of them were sweet as pie. How are you doing? I just baked an apple pie. Come and get some apple pie, Pastor C. Oh, thank you. You're so lovely. Y'all are so beautiful. And then I got an old man and old woman that's just kind of sitting next to him. And I go to say hello. And they pretty much tell you, leave me alone. The world is bad, life is bad, God's not fair, and heck on the world, and a string of curse words. And I get to thinking. You know what must be the reality here? One couple, nothing went wrong in life. Yeah. The nice couple, the nice old man and the nice old woman, obviously they have never lost a child prematurely. They obviously has never been sick in their life. Obviously they were born with a silver spoon and they've always had money, never bounced a check, always had money, and ate what they wanted and did what they wanted, because that's why they're so nice. Do you think that would be true? Would be the truth? And the very bitter old man and old woman who has a big old sign on their front porch, no trespassing, stay away. I don't trust you at all. Obviously, they have had a lot of tyranny in their lives. You think? Because why would they be so mean? Why would their character be so horrible? Obviously, they have gone through the tyranny in life, and the devil has just beat them up, and the other couple was fortunate enough not to have such things. Wrong Wrong, wrong. Usually it's quite the opposite. Statistically, it is definitely, it's the opposite. The nice couple that invited me in for the apple pie, statistically, in all studies, you will find out that the nice people have gone through more in life and have been beat up and been through tough times and been run over by a few Mack trucks. But they're nice and kind and their spirit is good. The ones that have not had it rough, those that the world and God himself owes them and are disappointed about the unfairness of the world because they didn't get all that they wanted, that's who has the bad attitude. It's proven. What makes us good? What makes us bad? All right, let's go ahead and read out of Ruth chapter 2, verse 1. It says, Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. You've heard of Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite, and I've preached about them Moabites to you quite a bit, okay? Says to Naomi, Let's go to the field and glean amongst the ears of grain, after him in whose sight I shall find favor. Now, when they said, let's go and glean amongst the ears of grain, what that was when they harvested the crops, they was kind of messy. Some of the crop and the grain would fall on the ground, on the stalks, and they wouldn't pick it all up. They would leave that there for those like Ruth who would come along that was poor, and they would allow them to sift through the fields and pick up the stuff that would not make it to the wheat press anyway, okay? To the threshing floor, should I say, to the threshing floor. So when they say gleaning the corn or gleaning the ears of grain, that's what it meant. They was going behind the harvesters, picking up what fell on the ground. Got it? There you go. Seems to be the case in the story, a few stories in the Bible, where the godly people, like Lazarus and the rich man, the rich people just always threw crumbs at Lazarus, and he just picked up the crumbs. In life, the rich, the kind couple, the mean, bitter old man and woman, the good people in life whose character has been molded and have understood the character of God, howbeit they have nothing or not much. They have always gleaned the fields of life. They've picked up what was left over. They received the crumbs of the rich man. Kind of like that you just get the tips, okay? So, now that you understand what that means, verse 2. Ruth the Moabite says to Naomi, Let me go to the field, glean amongst the ears of grain, after him in whose sight I shall find favor. Maybe at the end of this message you'll find out why you a good person or a kind person or not, or bitter. I don't want you to get bitter. I want to keep you from getting bitter. That's what I want to accomplish this morning. So she set out and she went and she gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come to the part of the field that belonged to Boaz. Boaz's field. Yeah. She hit, and who was of the clan of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he says to the reapers, The Lord be with you. And they answered and they said, No, God bless you too, Boaz. Typical greeting, okay? Verse 5, Then Boaz says to his young man, Hey, who was in charge of the reapers? Look, whose young woman is that over there? Who is that? Kind of got the eye. Now, I'll tell you a bit more about this. And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answers, she is the young Moabite woman. Oh my goodness, that's a Moabite woman? Oh wow, oh boy. Okay, well, She who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, please let me glean and gather amongst the sheaves after the reapers. So she came, and she has continued from early morning until now, except she took just a little bit of a rest. This woman can work, okay? That's the kind of woman you want, a woman that can work. All right. In verse 8 it says, then Boaz says to Ruth, hey, now listen, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping and go after them, okay? Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? Don't you worry, ain't nobody gonna mess with you because Mr. Boaz says so. Nice to have power, huh? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn. How you like the narrative so far? Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and she says to him, why have I found favor in your eyes? Am I beautiful or something? I can't be that pretty. I'm in the sun. I'm sweating. My hair's not washed out. What makes you like me? You ever meet somebody that's kind of mean, and I say, how you doing, my friend? And they say, hold it, I ain't your friend. Thank you, brother. And someone would be so mean, and they say to you, oh, I'm not you. Now, don't be calling me brother. I've met some people like that before. She falls on her face, bowing to the ground, says, why have I found favor in your eyes? You should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner. I'm not from here. You're not supposed to normally like me. But Boaz, he answered her, and he says, all that you have done, this is where the story becomes important and significant. I'm talking about good character and good people. Okay? All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me. I know who you are. I know about your character. And how you left your father and your mother and your native land, and you came to a people that you did not even know before. Must be rough for you, I bet. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. And then she says, I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, though I am not one of your servants. There are quite a few good sermons to spin off of in this passage. But the one that I want to spin off of is the fact that here is someone from a foreign land. He's paralleling that with you and I, Gentiles, that find favor with God, anyone. So the question was, why do I find favor with you? I look at what you've done. Who was this woman? That was Ruth. Who was this woman, Ruth? She respected and she made an oath to her mother-in-law, Naomi. Just a little history about her. She became the great-grandmother of David by marriage to Boaz of Bethlehem. She was humble. She was working the fields and picking up in the fields what the reapers had left behind. If you read the entire story of Ruth, what she became and how God put that into her life, it's an interesting story. Story of Ruth. Story of Ruth. What made her get the eye of Boaz? Let me bring this to my life and how I would apply this story, or how maybe I can relate to this story. One of the things, what makes good character, and not to get into a philosophical discussion with you, I do that sometimes, you know I do. But there are different kinds of people. And let's narrow two kinds of people down, okay? There are people that are agreeable, and there are people that are disagreeable. I like to say not agreeable, okay? Best way to describe something is to tell you what it's not. There are people that are of good character, and there are people that are not of good character. There are people that are saved and committed to God, and there are people that are not saved and committed to God. Makes it much easier. When someone says, "What do you think about Pastor C?" you may get a response like this. "What do you think? Who is he? What's he all about?" I will be best described. Some will say, "Well, let me tell you what he's not," okay? And I do suspect that they would say that he's not a fake. He's not a liar. He's not a taker, he's a giver. He's not mean. He's not mean, he's kind. So people so many times will describe what somebody is not. And when we look at people in life, and I have some people in life that I will tell you, somebody brought an attention to someone the other day to me, and this person had passed away. And I was in high school, I was in grammar school with this person. And I never ever knew them, got in touch with them after 1970, never ever met them after that ever again. Now, oh my goodness. About 50 years later, someone says so-and-so passed away. And I'm like, wait a minute. I knew that guy in grammar school. Yes. Had big Coke bottle glasses, had thick glasses, big thick glasses. Yeah, that's him. And I said, oh, I remember he would cut up a lot. And I told him some things that I remember that he did in grammar school. A big clown. Cut up a lot. Liked to make people laugh. He came in, a song would come on, and he would just dance around and cut up as kids. I remember that. I said, that's him. And they said, exactly. That's him. Well, he's the same way. That's exactly how he was the day he died. And I'm thinking, wow, isn't it amazing? The character that is instilled within us that pretty much we're born with. If you're a jokester when you're a kid, you'll be a jokester when you're 70 years old. If you dislike the world and you don't trust anyone and you're a taker, you will be a taker to the day you die. You probably will wind up being that millionaire because people's character, And you know what it boils down to? Do you want to really know? Of course you do. It's the spirit that dwells within you. That's what it is. As I was shedding light on two couples, a very nice old couple and a very mean, hateful, snarly old couple, they both lived this life, had some children that died prematurely. They both lost a job and lost income. Maybe they both had a car repossessed in their tough times in their lives. Perhaps both of them lost a parent or somebody prematurely. Both of them had heartache in life. And do not make any mistake about this. You cannot blame who you are because of what you went through. You can accredit who you are, good or bad. Good character, bad character. Godly, ungodly. Righteous, unrighteous. Love God, hate God. Kind-hearted or mean. Selfish, bitter. Sweet or bitter, based on how you decide to go through the valley of the shadow of death, as the Psalms 23 describes. It's how you go through it. This is the point where I would always go back to the to the account of Job. And when we look at Job, Job's life was fine. Job was of good character. There are some instances in the Bible where God says this, he was my friend. He was known as the friend of God. God liked Solomon so much that he says, Solomon, would ask of me what you want. I will give it to you. Look at Job's life. Job knew God. Job, and this is what's going to build your character correctly. There's another saying that I give you guys quite a bit, and this is what it is. This is what it is. It's not what you go through in life. Not what you go through. It's how you go through it. That's going to make you what you are. Nobody really knows who they really are. You do not totally comprehend the value of yourself unless you have been tested. A pilot doesn't fly a plane until he first has been tested to fly it. A plane doesn't even take to the skies until it has gone through all of its mechanical tests. If you are not tested, you have no idea what you can accomplish. You don't know. Anything not tested is not proven. Job was a good man, and all of the community and all of Job's friends knew that Job, by evidence of his possessions and his wealth, that he was good in the sight of God. Because God, this was the mindset. They did not have a Bible to read. They did not have a lot of instances and characters to refer to. So I wonder sometimes, how did Job know of God so well? You can't study yourself into salvation, by the way. You have to meet God. I told someone I said this at a memorial just a day ago. A day or two ago. I was at a memorial for a fallen friend. And I said, like I always say, you got to believe the story. You've got to believe the story. you believe the story, it'll bring out of you what God wants. Job believed the story. You have to have an experience. And when Job lost everything, why did God do that to Job? I think that was just so unfair. I think that was so wrong. If you don't mind me saying so, God, okay? Just so not right for Job, who did nothing wrong. God's front door just so happens to be the devil's back door. Devil walks out his back door, God walks out his front door, and there they are. Between the second and third heaven. God brings up Job. A wager takes place that Job will not love you, God. He won't be of good character. If, in fact, I can take away his wealth, because you know as well as I do that wealthy people very often have some pretty terrible attitudes. They can. Because they think they need more. I'm not against rich people. I would like to be very rich myself. Okay. And the wager was, so God takes everything away from Job? Takes everything away from Job. His three friends come and give him the worst advice in the world. Job, first of all, you have sinned against God. Why don't you tell us what you did? Job says, I did nothing against God. He did nothing. No, you're holding back something. Because God would not have had this happen to you if you was good. But you see, Job needed a better experience than God. And boy, it's just a pretty good point. Job needed an experience with God to know him as someone that he would call upon because he needed him to save him. Not a God that liked him because he should appreciate him. God, appreciate me, so bless me. You know, I'm a good old boy. No, God says you need to, I don't know if you would stick with me. Suppose you lose everything. I want to show the devil your character, your true character. And the devil says, I'll find out his true character when you take everything from him. Flipping back over to the story of Ruth and Boaz. He says, I know about you. I know your character. I know that you've taken care of your mother-in-law. That says a lot, huh? My mother-in-law loved me, by the way, okay? She did. She loved me, yes. I loved her, too. She says you took care of your mother-in-law. You had good character. And she got the attention of Boaz. And Boaz was, at that time, probably about 50, 55 years old. I forget where I found that, but he was probably about 50 to 55 years old. And Ruth was not. She was just a young girl. She was smart enough to do what she was supposed to do. She did it with all humility. She worked hard, and he knew her character. He says, you have come to a land that you would be despised in. You would be despised. But you came here anyway. You're a Moabite. You're a stranger in this land. If you look through the terminology in the Bible, you'll find things that are parallel, that relate to other things. You will see that when it says to love thy neighbor as thyself, the word used is actually stranger. Love God and love the stranger. God talks about the Israelites, the Jewish people, of course. And then he talks about the Gentiles. Paul preached to the other people. The whole story of God from Genesis to Revelations has to do with God taking in those that are less fortunate. It said that a rich man, it's difficult for them to find their way to heaven. And I know that to be true because people that are self-sufficient in America find it very difficult to find themselves to church. It's true. Say, well, when I tell you, and I say this a lot, you don't know love unless you know God, and I'll prove to you that you probably don't love anybody. That's a pretty mean statement. But most people don't love anybody because they don't go out of their way for an absolute stranger. They will do for their family, which you should. You should. A man that does not take care of his family is not a good person, the Bible says, at all. So when it comes to character and the Spirit of the Lord, I find it quite interesting that people's character and the spirit that is within them seems to be the same spirit that was with them later, with a few exceptions. My friend and the friend of the ministry road, George Palmer, who was a horrible, horrible person at one time. Forgive me, George, for saying such things about you, okay? George was a very feared man in Australia. He was a brutal mob boss and hated everything about God. George's character was nothing that you wanted to deal with. He was not of good character. And just to save you the story, because we have it on our YouTube channel, go look it up. Over 140,000 people have viewed that testimony. Many have written and said that if his character can change, so can mine. If George, who hated God so much that was going to assassinate the Reverend Billy Graham in front of the world on television, if he could love in an instant and God would change his heart and change his character from hate to love, from being spiteful about God to being appreciative and loving of God, from hating mankind to loving mankind, and God can change him from being a mob boss with weapons, and now he is a minister with a Bible, then God can change my character too. So, let me just sort of end this on this note. I wanted to give you a story about Ruth, how Ruth became exactly the mighty, mighty person of God, the woman of God that she did become in her story in the Bible, the book of Ruth, henceforth the book of Ruth. She had good character. She was a giving person. I started to tell you about the two different kinds of people. There are people that are agreeable and people that are disagreeable. Agreeable people, they will say yes to anything. They are the meek. And the disagreeable people, of course, are just the opposite. good character. Let God change your character. Let God mold you into what you need to be. I don't want to hear or see on social media any of my dear people posting things like, let me tell you what, I'm sick of y'all. I'm sick of people. Please, please erase those foolish words. Jesus hung on a cross, and there was legions of angels, tens of thousands of angels ready to save him from that fate. But if he would have chose that route, he said in the garden when he prayed, Father, if there is any other way, take this cup from me. If there is any other way. But there was no other way. He was expressing that regardless, when they plucked out his beard, they pulled on his beard and tore his skin and put the spikes in his hands and his feet, and they put the crown of thorns on him, and they gave him the sour vinegar drink to quench his thirst up on the cross. There were two thieves on a cross. One says, if you are who you say you are, save yourself and me, Mr. Big Guy. And then the other thief says, I know who you are. Just do me a favor. I belong on this cross because of what I have done. You do not belong on this cross because you have not done anything. Will you just remember me? Howbeit a thief on the cross, there was a spirit about him that was of good character. I'm just saying. I don't care who you are. I'm not interested in your bad story of how life has kicked you down. The Spirit of God within you and that good character will come out. Let me see if I can I'll share one more quick thing with you. I'm looking at my time. Very dear friend of mine that I grew up with. As we were sharing and talking, and tears in our eyes just yesterday, what he had gone through, what this person, this friend of mine, had gone through in life was terrible. The unnecessary beatings at the hand of bad charactered individuals, and what he went through, and I had no idea what my friend was going through. No idea. But today, that man is one of the most respected people that I know of in my book. Serves God, loves God, and did not allow life to beat him up in such a way, beat his body, but did not beat the Spirit of God that was in him from a child. And me and him both serve God today. You talk about your character. When you die, what better thing could be on your tombstone? In my case, if I said I was a successful man, on my tomb, here lies a successful man. That won't be true to those that was more successful than me, however you measure success. Oh, he was a talented man would not mean anything because somebody would be more talented in something. But nobody can trump this saying. You can put on my tombstone. Every day he told Jesus that he loved him. And every day he made a friend. What kind of a man was he? I would want you to have on that tombstone. He was a truthful man. He was truthful. Truthful. He was of good character. That would be what I would want to hang my hat on. And I wish that they could have like a gunslinger. That in the old westerns, when you drew your gun and you took down the other guy, and you put a notch on your gun. I think that's all Hollywood, but put a notch on your gun, and when you got to 5, you scored 5. I would love to have on my tombstone, souls saved, and a whole bunch of notches. A whole bunch of notches. A whole bunch of notches. Because my bragging rights wouldn't be how I was rough and tough and took people down. But I'd like them to know that his character was meek and mild, and he lifted people up. Their name was written in the Lamb's Book of Life. He was of good character. So that's my thoughts, okay? That's my thoughts. You know what I always say? Tell Jesus that you love him and make a friend today. And I got to go make a friend, okay? I told Jesus I loved him. I'm going to keep doing it. But I've got to make a friend today. I got to make another friend, okay? So tell Jesus you love him, make a friend today, and you will have a great day. God bless you. We're going to stay here, and I'm going to talk to you. We're going to pray, okay? God bless you.